So I just kept pushing, and I think they made some jokes about me by the fact that before presentation, during presentations, to keep my energy levels up for the amount of humor I wanted to convey, I drank like Red Bulls and stuff, and drank coffee. I had no idea how stupid that was. But I guess I saw myself a little bit as Superman. I didn't see the dangers of taking so much caffeine in my body, and at the same time being a very energetic person and doing a lot of stuff. It was just doing 120% without realizing it. And I think that's the key element here. Like, I didn't understand what I was doing. So if I don't understand what I was doing, the crash will eventually come, because I have no idea that I'm even driving the train too fast, or what it means to be driving the train, kind of.
Welcome to episode number 11. I am your host, Sebastian Engstrom, and today Mathias Lindblom joins us from Sweden. He is an app and web developer. He is a former gamer, to a degree right now too. He's just one intriguing human being, and we go deep. We go into burnout, depression, suicidal thoughts, his journey there and back to now co-creating a company, and now another one, and how his entrepreneurial path took off after really going through some of the darkest parts of his life. This is a very touching and moving story, and I'm sure you're going to be able to connect. So, enjoy. As high performers, we charge, we go hard, we barely stop. And when we do, we see it as a weakness. This is to reprogram that. It's for you to give back to yourself and to really tune into what matters. This is something I do with every single guest. And please don't do this if you're driving. So we're going to put one hand on your heart, one on your stomach. You're going to close your eyes and we're going to breathe together. First, you're going to say, I love you in your name. Then forgive you in your name. Then sending one person love and light. So do this quietly in 3, 2, 1. Out. In, I love you in your name. Out. In. Out. In. Out. In. Out. I forgive you in your name. In. Out. In. Out. In. Out. In. Out. In. Out. And now you can imagine one person in front of you. This person is having the most beautiful day of their life. They are shining because everything they've ever wanted is heading their way. They can feel the love. They can feel the forgiveness. It's not the material, but it's the presence. It's the here and now. And it's the love they feel. And it's how they're helping people. Because the secret to living is giving. And they just feel that they are alive. Because for the first time in their life, they're not worried. They're not analyzing. They're not thinking about what they need to do. Because they're right here. They're right now. And they smile. And they're laughing. Because they're connecting with people. They're helping people. And they're giving back. And in return, they're fulfilled. Because the greatest thing you can do is to help someone, is to be there for someone, is to spread and be love and light.
My name is Mathias. I'm from Sweden, Stockholm. What pushed me into that meditation camp and that practice? And that was basically, I was in a very desperate state of mind. Like I was going through a depression, and I needed an escape. And I realized I needed to talk with soft. That was kind of going through my thoughts. And I needed somewhere to get away where they could, like, give me food and stuff like that, because I had a hard time handling that. And so I basically just Googled like retreats, and I found this meditation camp, and I drove there, and I booked like 9 days in that retreat. And that's the first time I learned meditation. And so it was quite intense way to learn meditation, because like you're supposed to, at one point, like the first day, I was supposed to meditate for 6 hours, and trying for the first time in your life to meditate for 6 hours while you're in a deep depression. Let's just say I went into a dark place I didn't want to go to. So they told me to, like, don't even try the 6 hours meditation. Just do it as much as you can, and then get out of it, take a walk, and then come back. So they acknowledged that I wasn't like in my best self, and I should take it a bit careful.
Wow. I mean, I acknowledge you and I honor you for going into that. Even I'm thinking about how would I go about that, and having meditated for several years, that still would be a challenge for me. So amazing. You really threw yourself into the I would say even open and loving arms, but what to a lot of, I would say, high performers and myself, it would be the fire, because that's a challenge.
Yeah.
So what was it what was your experience like, and what, if you want to share maybe what came up during that camp?
Sure. I mean, a lot of things like that, I think it was 8 days, maybe, I'm not sure, but during those 8 days, I went through a lot of different experiences, emotions, and I met a lot of unique, interesting people. So what went through my head, like what did I go through? Like, one of the things that was really interesting is that I remember one specific moment during that meditation camp quite vividly. And that was, for me, all the people there were quite far away from the type of people that I normally hang out with. In a way, I've always felt that I'm kind of an open person that is interested about people of completely different opinions than myself, and I usually don't get upset about people having different opinions than myself. But for some reason, I've never really explored the meditation world. And the people that tend to be in meditation camps and stuff like that. So the thing I mentioned that I remember quite vivid was after the first day of 6 hours, and of course it wasn't 6 hours meditation for me. For me, it was like a half an hour, crying deeply, taking a walk, and then trying again for half an hour and stuff like that. And then we had a group session in the evening where we're supposed to talk, like go through what we went through during this meditation. And there were many groups, and we were the beginner group. And the beginner group was, of course, people that never tried that kind of meditation. Akram meditation, I think.
Yeah.
Akem, ACEM. It's like I don't know how big it is, but that's what it was. It's a form of, I don't know what you said meditation, transcendental. So basically in my group then, like all were pretty new to meditation as a whole, but especially new to this Akem meditation. And then the I don't know what to call, the teacher started asking, like, one by one, what did you go through? Can you explain your experiences with this Akem meditation now that you tried it for the first time? And the first person begins, and he or she says something along the lines of, it was hard with the technique, how to breathe, and we're thinking a lot about the technique and stuff like that, like how you should perform the meditation. Another person explained how they're thinking about their childhood or their dreams and stuff like that. And then the third person was talking about, I think, something about how their mind got empty at certain points and they felt like drifting through space, and kind of something along the lines of that. And then eventually it came to me. And since I was new to meditation and new to this entire context, of course, I was feeling slightly uncomfortable. So when I started replying, I started saying something along the lines what they said, because that felt safe, right? So I started also saying something like, hard with the technique, how should I breathe? And I was thinking about that. And after just like 10 seconds of talking, I felt like it felt wrong, because I felt like I was lying. That wasn't what I felt. Like, they told us in the beginning, go really deep and explain what you felt during this meditation. So I stopped myself, and then I started tearing up a bit, and then I explained like how I truly felt, which was, a lot of bitterness, and I felt angry, and I felt extremely depressed and alone, because I was in a really depressed state while meditating. So that was quite natural that was the kind of feelings I was going through. So a lot of darkness, when I started crying, and I opened up more honestly and just talked my heart out what I was going through. And as soon as I started, the uncomfortable feeling kind of went away, and I could just truly open myself up and just go through what my head went through during that meditation. And the interesting thing about this is that, of course, they were all really nice and supportive and stuff like that. But what was really interesting was how they opened up, and they actually, like, I think maybe 8 out of 10 of the people in the room explained how they actually also went through similar feelings and emotions, started crying, and had actually been kind of, not being fully honest in what they went through. And that shows like how I think many people who were there are there to open themselves up, but they're also my feeling was they're also quite, what's the word I'm looking for? Like, like they want to perform, right? They want to do it good. They are high performers, and they're high performers in their life, and now they're high performing in here. So they were more focused on how to do it right rather than actually exploring their feelings. And once I opened up, because I had to, I couldn't even lie because I was feeling so bad. Then everyone started opening up, and it was really this liberating feeling. And after that, we had a great time during that week, and everyone was really honest, and it's a nice moment. I really enjoyed that moment, seeing everyone. Like, we took another lap, and now everyone spoke more honestly about what they went through.
Wow. It's what comes to me is courage begets courage.
I would like to point out the fact that we're talking about deep stuff, like talking about depression and suicidal thoughts, and also things like meditation. And what I would like to say about that is that I'm in no way no person with like huge or vast amount of knowledge or wisdom regarding these kind of things. I'm simply a person who had some experiences with these kind of things, and for several reasons I chose to share them in this talk. So I think it's good, whoever, if it's 0, 1, 5, 10, 100, 1,000 people listening, like I think it's good to get that out in the open, so you know that you're just listening to a person who had some experiences in these subjects and nothing more. So what did I go through that pushed me to meditation camp at 28 years old? The short answer is I burned out and crashed. I've always been a normal guy, you know. What I guess normal is a poor choice of words, but you know, a regular guy doing sports, going to the gym every once in a while. I did Swedish military service, as in English, I guess it's Marine Corps, for 1 year. And then I started KTH, computer science. I've been working with that ever since. And I'm 31 years old today. And before I crashed, I had no knowledge about meditation or stress even. Like those weren't things that I talked about in any serious matter or form whatsoever. And I've always been pretty good at doing what I'm currently doing, whatever that is, and always try to be, you know, the best I can, maybe for poor reasons, such as being better than the person next to me. I've never been a person with huge goals and stuff like that. My goals has usually been like, try to be better than my brother, or trying to be better than my friend, or try to get A at school, because, well, there's nothing better than getting an A at school, right? And I love when people think I'm good at stuff, you know. So naturally I did well in school, and then when I started working, I did really well. And since I'm also a programmer and quite social, both the programming community enjoyed that I was doing, you know, solid, good work in the workplace I was in, and then the more, maybe I would say, social people love to have me stand in front of a crowd and give speeches or teach younger developers at the company to teach them how to develop and stuff like that. So I was doing tons of stuff, and I really enjoy the momentum, and I really enjoy the pride I felt making everyone happy with my great work ethics and all that stuff.
So going into becoming a developer, it's something of a newer profession. What was it that led you down that path of becoming a developer?
I think there are two main reasons, I would say. One is that I was good with, when I was young, I realized I was good with mathematics, and everyone else was quite bad, like next to me. So I figured like I should do something with this, like where can I use mathematical skills, you know? And then, you know, I also spend a lot of times with computers, like playing games. So naturally, computer science, just, you know, it wasn't a huge decision for me, actually. It was just, you know, I think I tried to be a fighter pilot after I did military service, but I failed at a test, and then I said like, well, I was offered to become a helicopter pilot, but I said I don't want to be the next best thing. So then I go to KTH and study computer science instead, and to understand my motivation behind it, like one of my brothers is a pilot and also wanted to be a fighter pilot, and one of my brothers is studied computer science. So I guess my tävlingsanda, what's that called in English? Like competing spirit, competitive spirit. Like made me choose, like, should I try to be better than this brother, or should I try to become better than this brother, you know? So in hindsight, I wished I had deeper thoughts, but that's how I motivated myself to become a computer engineer.
So in Sweden, there are some phenomenal, I think you call it e-pro athletes, just gaming athletes. I think that's the word, esports.
Right.
And if you haven't been to Sweden, and if you're not into gaming, you might not be so familiar with what reality can be like. I was in knee deep in that myself at one point in my life. Diablo 2 was
right. Good game.
How did that show up for you when growing up? I know for me, it 4 or 6 hours can go by, and I have no clue what happened with time. Wow, I learned so much from a tactical, strategic perspective. I also started creating these social connections, and I learned English. And I started learning,
of course.
Right? But as that drew me deeper and deeper into the artificial world. I mean, because it's truly an escape in a sense, and especially living and growing up on an island, I'm like, yeah, like this is an escape, and this is where I can go to live out something that I enjoy instead of the bleak, whatever, 5 degrees Celsius outside, windy and cloudy and not fun. Like, I don't want to do this. How did that show up for you?
Yeah, interesting question. Like, and yes, it's the best virtual drug out there, playing computer games, I would say. For me, I mean, I think my father introduced me to Nintendo 8-bit when I was 3 years old or something like that. So there's some movie of me playing that game, and I was really good at it even at 3 years old, since I played it every day. And I played, I think it was Super Mario mostly.
That's amazing.
Yeah, and I mean, I love my parents, but I guess having said that, I don't think they didn't put much limits on how much I could play. So I played away. I played a lot. I played most games during that period, and I played a lot of Counter-Strike, and I even joined like some kind of team, and we practiced like 6-7 times a day, but it became too serious for me, and the team was too toxic, so I kind of didn't enjoy that. So I eventually left after just maybe a few months or something like that. And I continue playing.
That's something I haven't heard. Like, how does that show up?
I mean, even though I've spent a lot of hours behind the screen playing computer games, but I've never been a sore loser or like a bad winner in a sense. But a lot of gamers are like, they scream a lot, like a lot of profanity, and I don't mind the profanity at all. Like, I guess in Sweden you don't mind profanity as you do in America, I guess.
Completely where you are, yeah.
True, yeah. But I didn't enjoy people being mad, like really mad, like mad to the degree that you can't even like reach them for maybe 10-20 seconds because they're having a tantrum and you're screaming and hitting the keyboards, and that I really didn't enjoy at all. So that's kind of why I left. And also I only wanted fun, right? I had fun in the beginning, but then when it became that competitiveness like came too much for me, so I kind of left it. But what I played most was World of Warcraft. that's the game I spent a good portion of my life in. And that's where I realized how far I can push things, because I started off just, you know, playing the game with my brother a little bit. Then eventually I joined the guild, you know, I to fast forward the history there, like, you know, joined the guild, and I realized people are not hardcore enough in this guild. So me and a few people basically did mutiny within that guild, and we formed our own guild with all the hardcore people in that guild of 200 people, and we formed like a hardcore guild of 50 people, and we played quite hardcore, and I became like class leader and guild leader and raid leader and add-on leader who decided which add-ons everyone should have, and strategic leader. So I spent like, for 1 year I spent 128 whole days, like dygn, how do you say that in is it like, is day dygn? Yeah, so 128 days, which means on average more than 8 hours per day for 1 year playing that game. And then,
so what comes to mind is Finland did this test of let's see what we can do if we give universal stipends to everyone, or maybe it was just a set amount of people, and so everyone has an amount to live on, because they are doing and are well off to the degree that they said, okay, well, if you want to work, you can work, but everyone should have a base pay, so everyone has just as
right.
rights. But what they found there is that a lot of people just got so consumed with video games and computer games that they realized, okay, well, this doesn't work as well as we hoped. How were you able to keep up a regular life during that time when you played for 8 hours a day?
Well, the easy answer for that was I didn't have one. I guess. I mean, the sheer youthfulness of me at that point. You don't have to be healthy at 15 years old. You know, you can you can skip eating for 12 hours. You can, you know, but I guess one thing that kept me a little bit healthy was the fact that I played football and soccer, for you Americans. And I still wanted to have good grades. So even I skipped a lot of school, like maybe 35% or something like that of school. I still went to the exams and I did well on those. So I did take care of school. But one of my friends told me when I stopped playing at one point, after I played for like 1.5, 2 years or something, he said, "Oh, welcome back to the world," because I've been gone for like 1 to 2 years. Yeah, it was a weird place. Like I hang out with friends, but in the sense that I invited them to my home. They watched a movie down in our like cellar where we had like a movie room, and then I just played games and didn't hang out with them. I guess. So I guess the answer is I didn't have a normal life during that period.
And that eventually, with the computer or with the mathematics, tied into development and writing code.
Right. Yeah. So it just became natural, you know. When you're combining computers and mathematics, you get computer science, right? It's an 1 + 1 = 2.
Yeah. Sure. But so what made you? And then did you continue that? And also, as you were a developer, you were still continuing on that path?
Yes, I would say, but not as much. Like I realized first I did the military service, and naturally after the military service, I stopped playing computer games, you know, for a while. And I was also interested in exercise, so I kind of pushed down playing computer games a little bit. And I also got together with my ex at that point when I was 20 years old, right after the military service ended. And so like the combination of being just in military service and like getting a girlfriend and KTH, like university, being a lot harder than school prior, that pushed down the amount of time I played computer games. But I did still play a lot. I did continue playing. Just not 8 hours per day, I hope.
Sure. And then eventually, so that competitive spirit, that really looking for that edge, and I noticed this to this day with myself, is for better and worse, it takes a lot for me to feel fulfilled or feel happy. Even though I'm doing and continue to do a lot of work, there's a very high bar that needs to be achieved before I allow myself to feel or feel any positive emotions. And if I don't, there's a lot of criticism. And well, you became an incredible developer, and you were talking about your social skills. How did that start showing up then in your work life? Because when I understand you're fantastic developer.
Let's. I'm good enough, I would say. Like so you mean like so if you could phrase the question again, like how did I? What can you rephrase the question?
Yeah, you're saying that you were not your regular or average developer. You had the social skills, and you started taking on more and more at work before we started going deeper in the gaming, and how you started taking on more and more tasks. So I see a competitive edge there that started showing up.
Right. Yeah. So I guess when I mean KTH, you had a test, and then the test was done and it was over with, right? So I did put a lot of effort getting my A's or B's or whatever, but then it was done and I could relax and play computer games and do whatever I wanted to waste my life with. But but like when I started working, I guess I took working the same way as I took World of Warcraft, I would say. In World of Warcraft, I wanted to be the best, and not like the best warlock or the best class leader. I wanted also to be the best raid leader and the one who plays the most and gathers the most potions. And so no one could in any way tell me, look, this is your weakness in the game. I'm just the best. But I wasn't braggy at all. Like I just wanted no one to find any weakness on me. I was actually quite, if I may say so myself, a humble guild leader, and I gave all my other smaller warlocks, I gave them all my loot and all the stuff. So I was the worst geared warlock, even though I was class leader. So I just wanted to be, no one should be allowed to find a weakness on me. That's how I played World of Warcraft. And I guess I took the same mindset to work. Like I didn't want to have a weakness. Like I wanted to be the one I am, like the fun guy and the one that people like to socialize around. And I wanted to be the best developer, and like both in the sense of I get a lot of work done, but I also with the elite squad. You can see me do this with my fingers now, I guess this is a podcast, but I'm doing the quotation thing with my fingers. The elite squad of computer scientists at work, where we studied new techniques and libraries and architecture within development. I wanted to be best there as well, or at least among the best there. And I also wanted to be the person who speaks in front of everyone and does it well, like does it good. And I wanted to be funny when I do presentations, not just do them. Like they're supposed to be qualitative and people should remember them. and teach other people. Like so I brought the same mindset, only that this was a lot more strained to the brain than just gaming. Like there's more seriousness to it, and more problem solving, and more stress standing in front of people and stuff like that. So of course it wasn't hållbart. It wasn't sustainable. Thank you. Yeah.
And what was it that didn't make it sustainable? And tying that into like, even going back to meditation camp.
I guess that I try to solve, without thinking, I try to solve the impossible, which is being the best or one of the best in all those areas I just went through. But at the same time, I had, a girlfriend that I've been together with for 6+ years, and you have family and friends and stuff like that. So, and you want to exercise as well, and even play computer games as well. Like, so it's an impossible task to still be doing good in all those areas. So naturally what happens is, of course, that you start sacrificing, and making sacrifices. That's a good thing, right? That's what you need to do in life to move forward. You need to make sacrifices, but you have to make smart sacrifices, or at least conscious sacrifices, right? You know what you're sacrificing, and you do this for a good reason. But in my case, it was just making sacrifices. It wasn't without any thoughts. So I guess I sacrificed exercise. I sacrificed spending time with my girlfriend. I sacrificed making friends, doing stuff on weekends. I sacrificed a lot of things that are healthy, and it never crossed my mind that I was sacrificing all of this, or that it was unhealthy.
So why did it become so important for you just to keep driving and go above everyone else and above and beyond, and that continued and escalated?
Yes, and I guess the problem doing that is the fact that you put a bar on yourself, right? You put this invisible bar that everyone, including yourself, feels and sees. Like they know how much I should perform, and I know how much I should perform. So even if you start feeling tired and you're feeling like it's too much, you don't want to suddenly become worse in what you're doing, right? So you can't take a step back. You can't suddenly say, no, I don't want to keep doing presentations. At least I couldn't. I mean, you should be able to do that, but I couldn't. So I just kept pushing, and yeah, I think they made some jokes about me by the fact that before presentation, during presentations, to keep my energy levels up for the amount of humor I wanted to convey, I drank like Red Bulls and stuff, and drank coffee. I had no idea how stupid that was. But I guess I saw myself a little bit as Superman. I didn't see the dangers of taking so much caffeine in my body, and at the same time being a very energetic person and doing a lot of stuff. Like, it was just doing 120% without realizing it. And I think that's the key element here. Like, I didn't understand what I was doing. So if I don't understand what I was doing, the crash will eventually come, because I have no idea that I'm even driving the train too fast, or what it means to be driving the train, kind of.
And how did that show itself to you?
There were some signs that in hindsight were, signs, but I didn't realize there were signs at the beginning. One of those was that I started forgetting more and more stuff, like just memories, but also like, I forgot my computer at like a coffee shop, and I lost it while on vacation, and I just started leaving stuff at places and forgetting them, like over and over, more than I usually do, and starting to, I guess, be less happy generally. I didn't enjoy my day-to-day life. But like the big realization, like there was a lot of small things that I could have picked up on, but I didn't. I was totally blind. But the thing that really woke me up was one point when I was sitting by the computer at work. I was developing, and my colleague asked me, "Are you done with this soon?" And I said, "Yes, just give me 5 minutes." And I looked at my screen. I looked at the keyboard. I put my hands on the keyboard. I was just supposed to do like a simple task, nothing special at all. And I just continued looking at the screen, looking at the keyboard, looking at the screen, looking at the keyboard. And I realized after doing that for a while that I don't know how to develop. Like I kind of forgot how to. I could see the code in front of me. I could see like what I was supposed to do, but I couldn't develop anymore. And then I kind of like started panicking a little bit, which I've never done in my life before, not in that regard. And I went away. I sat like in a chair somewhere, and I realized something is wrong. Something is really wrong in my body. I could feel it, and when I started feeling it, I started, feeling tears. And a friend came up to me, a colleague, and asked me, "Is everything okay?" Because he saw me just, standing up and walking away a bit weirdly. And I explained I had like tears in my eyes, and I just said, "I don't know what's happening, but something feels very wrong." That's when the journey of realizing I'm burning out started. But of course, the actual process of burning out has been going on for quite a while.
So what happened next after that?
What happened was that I went home and I contacted my boss, and I started Googling, what the fuck is stress? What is anxiety? And blah, 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 and started learning. And my boss told me, "You should not hold any presentation, cancel all meetings. You don't have to work." I mean, he was great in that regard. And he told me, just come to work, but you don't have to work. Just play pools or whatever that we had at work. So that's what I did for a week. And what happened is that like my girlfriend after a week also ended the relationship. And for me, at that point, it came from nowhere. Of course, now in hindsight, I realized our relationship had been more or less crap the last at least 6 months or something like that. But I have been blind, and she had also been blind. She has also like experienced stress and had her own kind of burnout at the same time without realizing it. And when she broke up, something, I was already, knee deep or like drowning in stress and anxiety with a burnout. And then when the relationship ended for 8 years, and that was just too much for me to handle. So it pushed me over a ledge, I guess. And this is where the real weird stuff started happening in my mind and my body. And I guess the most serious thing that happened was that I couldn't sleep anymore. Like I just couldn't sleep. Days after days went, and my memory just and concentration abilities just completely disappeared. Like I remember, like I started fighting for the relationship that was ending, and after like a week or so, I guess, my girlfriend just broke down, started crying because she told me I've been saying the exact same things and doing the exact same things for a week straight, and I couldn't remember what I did last night. Like, so my memory was just completely screwed up. And after a while, I realized I have to stop fighting for like the relationship and fighting for. I need to start fighting for myself. Like I'm actually, as a human being, I'm crumbling right now, mentally and physically, and I need to start fighting for myself somehow. And it's hard to explain like what I went through, and to some regard I can't even remember everything, but I do remember I was starting getting regular episodes of just, I guess, sheer anxiety, like where I just crawled up and just shaking and sweating and just feeling pain through the entire body, like, and I couldn't understand anything. It was really hard to make sense of anything because my mind was also fucked up. Oh, sorry for the language. So my mind was like, I couldn't think, I couldn't concentrate, I couldn't hold a thought, I couldn't remember anything, and I couldn't sleep. So it was just total chaos and total travesty going on in my body and mind, and just horrible, just a horrible experience in every sense of the word. And I remember in the beginning of that, I even called my good friend who I'm working with today is still. I think I can say his name, so I'm going to say his name, Lucas. I called him, and I was so curious about all the emotions and stuff going through them. So I was kind of naively intrigued about everything. And I thought, like, this is just an episode that's going to disappear. But when I realized it was getting worse every day, worse and worse and worse and worse, like, it stopped becoming intriguing for me, and instead becoming like the end of life. That's what I started thinking about, the end of everything in a sense. Yeah.
You're still here with us today, and I'm incredibly grateful for that. Did it have to get worse at that point? Really, what occurred after?
Like, I mean, it got worse and worse. It was like kind of, you felt like you pulled your handbrake, but the car was just keep speeding. That's the feeling I got, and I became very desperate and trying to like Google solutions and how to fix stuff, like an engineer, like, okay, how can I solve this in 24 hours, and couldn't find any good answers, of course, and instead read things like this can be for many years and you might never fully recover from it, and those kind of things just put extra anxiety and stress in my body. And after, I guess I could handle it for a couple of weeks or so, a few weeks, in the sense that I was motivated to try to find solutions to it, but it kind of broke me down eventually, and stopped eating and stopped drinking, and I was kind of feeling I was the feeling of being ready to die start creeping in, that I was, you know, I'm ready. Like, I remember saying to myself, like, I'm, you know, 28 years. I've been living quite an okay life for 28 years. Like, most people don't even get that, you know. And so I started getting mentally ready to end it. And it was like, in some ways it was serious. Like I googled, you know, how to kill yourself and stuff like that. But in some ways it was meditative. Like it was the and this is what I found intriguing, is that I understand so much better now why people, you know, think about suicide and never do it, and like maybe attempt, but they don't really want to do it, because it was meditative. Like it was the only thing that gave me some real relief. Just the thought of there is a solution, like there is a solution from this anxiety, this pain in the body and mind, this endless loop of not being able to sleep. Like there is a solution, and that was comforting. And what I'm really like happy, and I guess in a sense proud of myself, is that I managed to use that more as an plan B rather than plan A. Like it gave me some strength eventually that I like to fight, in the sense that if I fail the fight, I have a really good solution. like I have a solid plan B, you know. And that gave me some, in a weird way, that gave me some power.
So what was plan A?
Plan A kind of developed at a certain point. Like my, like I didn't get much. I got help with people around me, especially my brother. But I maybe I didn't get the help I needed, like the soft help, and I didn't know what I needed, you know, in a sense. So my brother's tip was, you know, start exercising. So I tried that, but that was of course futile, because I can run like maybe 100 meters and then I just collapsed, and you know, I just wasted the little energy I had in my body. But I did try to run a little bit, just to do something, try something. And I ran, and I came to a bridge eventually, and I collapsed at the bridge, and I slowly started standing up, and I looked over the reeling of the bridge, and it was a long fall to the water, and I thought about jumping, and this like pure energy of bliss and happiness, like to this day, like the best feeling in the world, hit me quite hard by the thought of jumping. Like it was such a relief. Like it's such an immense relief to just jump. And even though it was a bliss, like for a few seconds, I also panicked like immediately afterwards, because I realized, whoa, this is bad, you know. So I collapsed, and I started crying, and I started talking to myself. And this is where plan A kind of started creeping in my head. And I told myself like this little speech, I guess, where I said, like, pushing yourself so hard is what has driven you to this point. But like the word kriga, like to fight, you're a really good fighter, you know, and that has brought you to this position. But I mean, you are also really fucking good at it, Mathias, right? so why not give it a last go, right? You've been fighting in this way for such a long time. You come to this place. Why not at least give it a few months, 2 to 3 months or something like that, and just fight to get out of this situation you are in right now. And if you fail that fight, if you fuck it up and after 3 months you realize I'm feeling just as bad or even worse, then let's go here together and let's just hold hands with yourself and jump off the bridge and end it. But at least you gave it a fight, right? You gave it a last fight. So that became my plan A. And if I feel just a little bit better after 3 months, which in my mind was just a, random amount of time that seemed reasonable. And if I feel a little bit better after that, like, let that sink in and continue fighting. So I made kind of a deal with the devil where the devil was myself, in a sense. And I guess it was sometime after that I joined that meditation camp, for example. Yes, I think it was just a week or so after that event, after that situation. And that became my plan A. And 3 months did pass. I held true to my promise. I was feeling a little bit better, so I continued fighting. And I guess to call me a relaxed person today, that would be a lie. But at least I'm fighting for, I'm using my fighter spirit towards my health, like physical and mental, and trying to like steer that energy towards something healthy today instead, the best I can. So
there are others on this path, and having been there myself, receiving help is so incredibly hard.
Yes.
And softening and accepting that someone can help you, because it's seen as weakness. And especially a system like the hospital system or the medical system that is so box and cookie cutter like. Many times it becomes a deterrent, and it even leads to a deeper spiral. And I'm sure, like, how did that show up for you? Because in that time you said your brother helped you, but were there others? And you were Googling it, but was there more than that?
I mean, naturally, since I'm an engineer and the way I lived my life, I tried to find a lot of solutions myself. That was, how I usually solve problems. So, it should work this time as well. And thankfully, Google did have some good tips. One of them was, therapy. So I did try some different forms of therapy and eventually found someone that worked quite well with me. Horribly expensive. I'm really sad that the good therapist I found was within the private sector and not like the free sector. So, but I acknowledged that was I had some money saved up, and she was really good. So I started going to her. So that was one of the people who could really, help me on a more, I guess, spiritual or close level. I guess I had a hard time, I think this is how it is for most, I wouldn't say most, but at least many people, especially men, that like yourself and also your family members and friends and everyone around you, like they're not used to dealing with a guy or a guy like me coming to that place in life. Like I did, I had a friend that told me like, oh shit, Mathias, seems like you're feeling really like bad. Like I understand you're not up to doing so many things, but like when give me a call when you feel better, and we can do something. Like, I mean, I kind of laugh at that a little bit because it's such a bad approach, you know. Like, I'm all right, you're feeling bad, I'm gonna disappear, and once you feel better, I'm gonna we can hang out. But I also totally understand it. Like, most people, I guess, that I hang out with and spend time with, including myself, like, don't have any real tools like how to handle it. I don't know. Like, even though everything I went through, I still feel like I only scratch the surface of tools and stuff I can use to help someone else. Like, it's really it's really hard when you have so low experiences with like handling your friends' emotions, family members or stuff. Like, it doesn't feel natural. So I guess what I'm trying to say is, like, I searched outwards. Like, I found people in the meditation camp. I realized I can't force the people around me to, like, hey, you need to be, I tried and told them, like, you need to be soft. Like, hey, my friend, like, could you call me and ask me? Like my friend Lucas, who I told you about earlier, like, I told him, could you call me every morning and ask me how I feel? I might cry, which I know it's gonna be weird, but could you just do that? You know, so trying to make people. I mean, he did it. Like, he did it for a good portion of time, but I realized I need to look somewhere else as well. So I looked at meditation camps, looked at therapists, was really nice, and I traveled when I found enough strength to travel somewhere, which took me about 8 months or something like that. I traveled and I made sure I connected with people that could connect with me, and then I started out a journey of, like, trying to find these people that never been in my life before.
There are a mentor of mine who committed suicide shared a lot of things what you were saying there. Like, you so many performing at such a high level, like you can do it all on your own. You're able to figure everything out. And if someone asks you, for him it was sharing a lot of wisdom, sharing quotes. Like, he was the one I turned to when I was facing challenges. And when you've always been that person who kept the boat afloat, who has been the leader, who has led the way for others, and all of a sudden you're crashing, all of a sudden you're imploding, and you don't know what to do. I guess that's an incredibly difficult position to be in, and like, not even for yourself, and even to acknowledge that, which is amazing just to do that the way you did it, but for your friends and family, it's something as a warning sign too. And I think this is tying in with the meditation camp, is really start listening to what are your friends, what are your family saying. If there's something that comes up, don't just let it fall to the side, because it can be indicators of, hey, this person is not doing well. And even though if you don't know what to do or how to be there, the biggest learning lesson for myself is time, and time in the way of spending time being there, not knowing the answers, but just showing that, hey, I am here. We don't need to do anything. We can just be. And it's the saying, time equals love, love equals time.
Right.
Especially as a high performer, it's hard to, well, how do you quantify that? How do you measure that? Well, you can't. Like, it's just something you need to accept, and it's just something that you need to come at peace with and to be patient with. And I still fall victim to this myself, is that I'm running at such a high pace that I forget the most important things in my life, which are the relationships. And even if people are indicating signs that something is wrong, when they need help or support, I sometimes push it to the side because I'm so focused on just fixing things and solving things, especially as being a man. It's very, very dominant.
You're supposed to fix things, right?
And then all of a sudden, when you can't, and people have this perception, oh, well, he will figure it out. And even in these conversations, even some of the people that are close to me, and I'm telling them like, hey, this is what I went through, and they're like saying, well, you just keep on fighting. I'm saying, no, that's not the solution. Like, I can't keep fighting. Like, there's more to this. Like, I need to just be. Like, for me, extreme measures of like, I wish I could have taken a sabbatical or taken time off. And now it led me to this place that I am today, and realizing that this needs to be shared with this world. This is a gift and a medicine to this world that what you're sharing with us right now. So thank you for doing that. And one of the most beautiful things is how you, and one of the most difficult things is you let this take form. You are patient with it, and you let this just show itself, and not have always expectations on, okay, well, I need to solve this in a week, and if not, then then I know I'll get angry. Yeah. and you turn this into, after, I mean, you had the opportunity of going back. Actually, what happened when you started feeling better? Like, you at one point, we can go to therapists, but how do you still make a living? And do you feel like, what I felt like, and I've noticed others, they feel like they're damaged, like almost damaged product. Like, who wants me now? I'm broken.
Right. And before I answer that question, one thing I felt like I really want to make clear in this talk as well is like, when I said like it was hard to find the support I needed within, like, or at least I gave a feeling that it was hard to find, the support I needed within family and friends. I did get a lot of support. Like, my brother even took vacation 1 month just to spend time with me, and other family members who, really helpful towards me. And friends were also listening, like a few friends that spend a lot of time with me and like hang out with me and took me away on stuff. And one even took me to a weekend in Copenhagen, and that was extremely weird experience, feeling so bad and just hanging out with people, having a good time. But there was something else I was searching for that I couldn't find there, and that's like, it's okay that I couldn't find that within maybe family members and friends. Like, it's just how it is, and you have to be just honest with yourself. Like, if you're not finding exactly what you're looking for, not everyone, you can't expect everyone around you to have the recipe of healing to you specifically. Like, I have a history of 28 years with my family and friends in different amount of time, and you can't expect that in your relationship, that like, I'm changing from this to this, and now everyone should just handle me like I've read in Google that you're supposed to handle me. I mean, that's not how it works, right? To get back on track on like, how did I manage to sustain like life? And you said an interesting thing there, like how you could feel like damaged goods. And I do even today feel like damaged goods, but not in the sense of like, I don't see it in the sense that I'm like, other people are whole and I'm damaged. I see it more as like, I've acknowledged and I can see that I'm damaged, like everyone else is in a certain way. And now when I see the cracks, which I've never seen before, and now when I see them clearly, I'm feeling better, I can see them even more clearly maybe. I understand where I should focus on strengthening this broken piece of meat. I could feel the cracks you know, good repairment material. You know, so that's how I see it. But I truly understand the feeling of feeling damaged and like waking up in the morning and feeling why do I feel so damaged? And I'm sure not everyone wakes up like this. So I really understand that feeling, but trying to put a positive twist on it.
The Japanese have a saying of some of the most revered and praised items are items that are broken and then they're mended with gold, because it really shows the beauty. And even to take away from being broken, I think that is something that we see ourselves, and having enough grace and forgiveness for ourselves, just to I think be grateful for our experiences, and that has taken me some time, and when I get more quiet, I realize that this is an incredible gift too, because now you can understand people and connect to people so much more, and it brought so much more life into every day, like an appreciation for life, like you stop taking things less for granted.
Right. I mean, if you're perfect, and like, what's the meaning of goals? Like, you're done. You're the best there is. Like, there's no need for goals. So seeing those cracks and seeing that damage, or whatever you want to call it, I mean, that's a blessing. Like, that's a goal right there. Like, you don't have to solve everything also, but at least you see there's always, in my eyes, life is about, progress. It doesn't have to be fast progress, just some progress in something. Life is about, changes and learning stuff. So now at least you see some nice cracks that you can fill with knowledge or life lessons. So be grateful if you see your own cracks. That maybe sounded wrong. I don't know.
I think that's a beautiful oxymoron. So it doesn't make sense naturally, but I think for people who have been there and experienced it, and I think even as a concept, I think that's beautifully put.
Thank you. And I think it was a good question you said, like, because I think about that sometimes also, like, how did I manage to have a somewhat normal life, which I eventually started having, and how did I progress from that? Like, how did I spend my time? And I guess I put a lot of faith in what I learned, like what I learned from therapists, what I learned from YouTubers, or just Googling or reading as well. So I just put a lot of faith in the information out there regarding mental health, and I started, thinking in terms of, for example, nothing in life is fun right now. Not a single thing in life is fun. Maybe you get like a relief once every month or 2 times every month where you feel like, oh, this was a nice, liberating feeling. But the rest is just dreadful, horrible. I couldn't even enjoy gaming. I couldn't enjoy anything really. So I figured, since I don't enjoy anything, I might as well do something productive, because that's just as boring as entertaining myself. So I might as well do the right thing, since everything sucks anyhow, right? So I started thinking in those terms, and so I slowly and gradually I decided something. I decided, like, all right, everyone speaks about exercise. Exercise is good for mental health. Exercise is good for helping your mind. Like, it's good. So I started running more, and I realized I was more interested in at least like gymming. So I started focusing more on that eventually. So I just decided I'm gonna try to become strong. Like my mind is fucked up, but maybe the muscle growth still works. Maybe that works, right? So I figure once I get out of this, like it would be nice to stand there with mental health, like a good mental health and a nice body instead of just good mental health. Kind of that's kind of how I thought. And so I gradually started, pushing myself into like trying to do some exercise. And I also realized the more I exercised, like it was a positive and negative spiral. Like the more I tried to push myself exercise wise, and I managed without pushing myself too far, like the better I could actually feel. Like I was a bit more tired in the evening. So sometimes I could sleep without my sleeping pills that I, of course, have gotten through this entire ordeal. It took me about a year before I stopped taking the sleeping pills, and I figured like I want to replace. It's all about making small goals, right? So one of my goals that I had was like I want to eventually stop taking these sleeping pills and taking these drugs that I'm taking now for antidepressants. And everyone online says like, exercise is the best medicine for your mind, and shit like that. So if you just have faith in that, of course you have to start doing it. Eventually I could stop taking medicine, and took me about a year, and then I kind of just continued from there, and try to like find what's the worst thing in my life right now, or at least what's something that I can improve in my life, like removing the pills, maybe trying to sleep better, maybe try to clean the room, because some speakers say like clean your room. That helps, so start seeing if I can get that routine going. So, and I try to avoid playing too much computer games, and just trying to do good things step by step, small goals, and just ignoring the fact as much as I could that I was feeling really, really, really depressed and bad, and also at the same time try to go to therapist and try to getting back to working maybe 25% and 50%. Just taking it slowly and trying to forgive myself every time I failed, and I got anxiety attacks, and I went back and couldn't sleep again for 3-4 days or something, and just kept going and kept fighting like that. And with time I started feeling a little bit better. And then there were some like key elements that pushed me a little bit further, like going to the meditation camp really pushed me. Like I could, it felt like during and after the meditation camp, I kind of felt like this, I could breathe, like I could sense something there, like some life, I could touch some good feelings somehow, like, right? And going on vacation at some point, I could also feel like this freedom, like there is life after this, and just holding on to those feelings and trying to chase them a little bit by reaching small goals, so I can go on vacation more and feeling better and go back to 100% working. And so it's a lot. It's like you could talk about that process for probably about 2 hours. It's a long, boring, and steady process, I would say.
I can keep going about this, and I think a lot of the listeners are intrigued as well by the concept of this, because I think a lot of people can relate when you perform at such a high level. So you turned this into, and I know as a Swedish person, being humble and not showing off too much, you turned this into something incredible in my eyes. You started your own company. You decided it's time for a change. And now you work with some rather significant brands. and what you have created and what you've developed is something very different than what you've experienced. So how did that take form, and where are you at today with your mission?
Right, and I would say like starting the company was also one of those things that was really also pushed me further into this feeling of, you know, this life after this. But at that point, a lot of time has gone by, so the worst part of the depression was behind me, so I could start seeing the light at that point. So what pushed me was, of course, that well, I was doing this great work at this company. I was working with this big Swedish consulting firm, and one of my big anxiety things that I was afraid of during my depression was that I was so afraid that, like, is my life now gonna be trying to get back to 100% working capability in this workplace, but be like maybe at 35% of the work ethics or work productivity that I had before, and now without the girlfriend that I loved. So it's just, is my goal in life gonna be like get back to work, but be a worse be a worse worker? That's like in a worse state of mind. Like that can't be my goal. Like that's a horrible goal to have. Like, but I mean, I was feeling so bad, so I mean, I didn't have the like courage to like, I'm just gonna, you know, go to another workplace. Like me, I mean, here in Sweden you have this parachute. Like if I did burn out at work, I mean, they can't really fire me, right? So they're gonna, in a way, I don't know exactly how it works, but they have to, like, you know, give me a therapist, take care of me, and I will get money from the state and stuff like that. So I could, if I wanted to, just stay there, I guess, indefinitely and get some money from the state. But that just sounded like a horrible path to walk. So I kind of made a long-term goal, which was work my way back to 100% at that workplace, because it would be a stupid decision to like quit the work before I can even work at 100% rate, because it's going to be hard for me to find a work when I can't even perform 40 hours a week, you know. So, but after I finish that, then I have to make a change. What that change is going to be, is going to be me trying to have strength to travel the world. Is it going to be me switching to another workplace? Is it going to be me starting a company? It didn't really matter. I just knew something had to happen at that point. And eventually I got to the point after a year where I worked 100%. And I just thought to myself, like, we are pretty good at doing what we're doing, at least a few of us that I know really well, both from the company I work at, but also as friends outside. So, but we are really strong-willed people. Like, we're always, you know, complaining about stuff at the company. Like, why are you doing like this, not like that? And why are you, you know, why are you not more empathetic, you know, to the workers? Why are you not putting paintings on the wall? Like, why are there no colors and whatnot? Like, we're always strong-willed and stuff like that. So I figured, like, instead of just complaining, like, why don't we just start our own and do whatever the fuck we want to do, you know, instead of just complaining, actually get that creative mind out there, you know. It made sense somehow. So and I was still kind of desperate at that point of time, so I wouldn't say that my mind was super like for good and for bad. I thought more with my heart than I did with my brain, I guess. Like, I just felt that this was nice. And when I asked my friends who I wanted to take with me for this journey, when I had the idea, I mean, we did it together, but I guess I was a little bit of the fire starter, I guess, in a sense. And some of them asked, like, but what are we gonna do? Like, what's the point of it? Like, what's the goal, and what are we gonna create? And I'm like, I don't know. Like, but you're good and you're a nice person, right? I'm I at least was good before I burned out at what I do, and I think I'm a good enough person at least, and that person over there is also good. Like, why don't we just get together? Like, surely we can do something, you know? And you could see the skepticism in their eyes, and like, what the fuck is this crazy guy talking about? But it also kind of makes sense in a way, like, so. And we found eventually like a few clients before we even ended work that were interested. Like, if we start a company, they would want to like work with us, and I guess that helped also everyone to feel more like, okay, we can do this, we can be like a consulting company and do what we do now, and let's just hope that we find more clients when we do this. So after a lot of crazy motivational speeches, eventually we jumped ship and started it. So there wasn't this great idea, this is what we're gonna create. It was just, surely we can do something. I guess.
So what is it like right now, today, and what's gonna happen in the future for Hex?
Yes, so for today, where we started, we were 5 people, and we are 7 today. So we grow slowly, and that's our intent. And now we're quite satisfied today. I guess like one of the best things about Hex that we did was like this January we moved into a big office, like big for us at least, 180 square meters, which is a lot of space for the 5 people we were at that point, and now we're 7. So, and then that's where COVID struck. So when everyone had no place to work, we of course had our cozy place to work at, because for 5 to 7 people, there's not going to be anyone knocking on the door like, hey, why are you sitting at the office? Like, no, nobody cares. So we could sit together, and which was really nice. And today we are kind of transforming. We started doing what we did good at our other company, which was consulting to other big companies. And our top clients was Transport and Spotify. So we worked with them. But we are, which we're really happy about. I mean, Transport and well, Transport is not that famous outside of Sweden, I guess, but Spotify at least is.
So, and I didn't know this in the United States. So.
Oh, really? That's interesting.
Yeah. So, well, actually, hold on. No, it's when you run around in a big, I guess, oval circle, almost like a track with the horse. But actually, you're right. But you're sitting on a carriage almost behind, and I think you're right. It is not popular. Actually, I don't know how popular it is outside, but yeah, go ahead.
Yes, I have no idea, but Spotify, of course, also we're really happy, because I mean, getting big companies like those two, it gives a feeling of pride, and whenever other people look at the company, they see like, they have famous clients, so they must be doing something right, right? So that was really nice. But we realized also that working like that, you don't really grow a company. You just start your company, and then everyone goes out to their clients, and then like you're working as a regular employee but as a consultant at those companies, so you're not really growing Hex anymore, right? So I think now we're starting to get like more interested in smaller projects, even though we might earn less from those, and it might be more context switching between different smaller clients and different smaller products and projects. We are tilting more towards that kind of work, because it seems more fun, more changing environment, and most importantly, I think we as a group grow tighter together, since we have to collaborate more, and we have more freedom in how we work. While like if I work at Spotify and someone else at Transport, for example, it's not like, hey, come and work on my code. I mean, it would be like a breach of something, right? So so it's going to be a lot more fun, I think, to work like this, and we're going to grow tighter together, and we're going to be more motivated to actually, you know, employ maybe more people and yes, put more time into Hex in general.
So what do you feel is different now with Hex from the even companies that you work for, even or other companies out there? What is it that you're doing that's different, and not necessarily the results you produce, but what is the culture like? Like, what's the experience you're looking to create for the people who work at Hex?
Right, that's a good question. It's something we talked a lot about. I think we are quite self-aware how we are as individuals and as a group, and we try to talk as much as we have energy for it about ourselves and what kind of culture we want to have. So we're all quite, I mean, we're good web developers. I would say, like, we're good app developers and web developers, which is the core of what we do. And I think at least most of us are, like, you know, competitive people who enjoy good progress and making money and, you know, making a good life for yourself. But we're also not, you know, we're not like we're not looking so much for riches, you know, in a way. So I think we are classical Swedish in that sense, you know, lagom. We want to, I think we all learned that, like, once you reach a certain point, like if you don't have any like super luxurious hobbies, like after a certain point, you really start to feel like what's, like, quite early on, like, why do I really need to earn more money, right? So we haven't put in like such a huge salary on ourselves. We let most of the money go into the company, and we want to instead of just giving ourselves more money in the wallet, we want to use the money to like create a working environment, because we're gonna spend, no matter how much money we earn, we're gonna spend like 8 hours a day together in that workplace. So we might as well make it the best workplace that we possibly can, right? It just makes sense, you know. So we try to foster culture, and we try to like foster ourselves as well, to focus on like well-being, on like growing slowly and making sure that the people we bring in, like that we thought carefully about bringing in those people, and we try to use the money that we bring in as much as possible to like for the well-being of everyone in there. So basically we want, for us, like, to put it in more simpler terms, for us success is that no matter the amount of people we are at Hex, like everyone, or as many as possible, are feeling happy and satisfied, like with themselves and with the workplace. So we have no interest in having 1,000 people earning a lot of money where like 100 or 200 of them are feeling super depressed or just feeling bad. In general, we'd rather be 50 people and we know all 50 of them are feeling good. You know, that's a simple goal, I guess, that we have, and we try to also remind ourselves of this, because it's very easy when you start a company and you start seeing, like, when it goes well, you see money pouring in, you're like, oh, how can we try to add, you know, let's add an extra zero. Like, whoa, hold up, like that's not what we is that really so important? Let's see what else we can improve in the workplace instead. So I guess that's a sneak peek in how I try to steer the boat of Hex, I guess.
You're on the forefront of what's happening, and part of the development and the transition as social life is starting to become work more and more, and friendships are not what they once were, especially the more busy we get and the more time we spend at work. So therefore the quality of the work environment and who you spend that time with is more important now than it ever has been before. And especially as high performers, sometimes a lot of, like you said, the relationships started taking a backseat, and you don't focus on those. But the better those relationships are, especially at work, I think will foster and will help the relationships that you have outside too. And the more you feel supported and encouraged to focus on that by the company you work for, or organization you work for, the more and an easier it is to embrace in the rest of your life. And when a company is just focused on results, and especially when becoming so one-track minded, having the horse blinders on, especially as high performers, we just go and go and go and go, and we make it our identity, and then everything else falls to the wayside. Mind Valley is a self-actualization, self-help platform of significant size, and they were struggling early on, and the CEO released a book here recently which is about this topic, Buddha and the Badass. And you're doing so many things, and I think that could be incredible to give it even more ideas for your company. And a lot of these things you're doing already, but he realized, okay, well, how do I produce more results? How do I attract more people? And he had such a hard time because they didn't have a fancy office. They didn't have the sexy clients. They didn't have all these incredible things. So he was like, okay, well, let me describe what they will get from an intrinsic perspective, and the actual experience. And he started sharing, these are the people you will be working with. These are emotions that you will be feeling. This is how you will be and feel as a person. And he started attracting all these incredible people, some of the highest performers, because they bought into this exceptional mission and the change that they were going to make in this world. And then his goal became, I'm gonna create the best workplace on earth. And as he shifted from making money, being profitable, hiring the best people, to I'm gonna make this the best workplace environment on earth, the more people started coming, the best people that he never imagined, joining his company in Malaysia, of all places, which is known for having a lot of people leave because there's not enough good workplaces. A lot of people started joining him across the entire world because it was such an exceptional place to work. And the main thing he focused on was just employee well-being and happiness. And they've ranked, have top 10 best offices by Inc. And just the programs they introduce has created this exceptional creativity within the company and well-being for the employees, because they feel fulfilled and they feel like they're making a change in this world. And instead of just hard charging and focusing on the results and how can we produce more and how can we climb and so forth, the biggest thing is, if you're not innovating, if you're not being creative, that is the problem. Like, if you're not putting up results, that's fine. If you're failing, that's fine. And taking on that Google mindset is that we're going to fail 40 to 50% of all the projects that we do.
Right.
But really, it's the remaining part where we do succeed. Some of these we're going to knock out of the park, and they're going to be incredible because we dare to take these risks. And we dare to fail. We dare to be vulnerable, and we embrace change. And especially now during COVID, and with everything happening, when you focus on embracing failure, change, and putting people first, results will follow. Because it's more important now than ever before. And you're doing this in such a beautiful way. And I acknowledge you for that, for leading that. is that you're putting the people first, and results come after that. So thank you.
I don't know what to say, like, no problem. I'd like to thank you, but I want to acknowledge also, like, it's you said me leading, but I guess you could also say you as in multiple people, because I feel like we're all doing that in Hex. Like, we're all committed to this, and it's really I think the most interesting thing is seeing the people inside the company, like the small changes, the small iterative changes in their personality and mindset, and like how when you're thrust into a company like your own company, like we have been, and suddenly you have like all this responsibility and all this freedom, stuff happens to yourself, like, wow, that won't happen if you're just sitting at a company doing your exact task over and over again, like I've done so many times. Like, it's really interesting to see the growth happening, and I guess sometimes it's even like it's hard to bring it up, like you're just living your life. What growth? Like, what am I talking about? You don't even feel it in yourself. But if you step back, take a huge cup of tea, breathe in and breathe out a little bit, and just dare to zoom out a little bit and look at yourself and look at your friends or your colleagues, and you can see the changes, and those are quite, I think I live for those changes in a way. Like, we've used the word so I just wanted to say this, like, you've used the word like achiever, like top achiever, top performer, and stuff like that. And I think it's important to note that I think I've never seen myself as a person who could ever start a company with a few friends, or even start a company at all, or like there are a lot of things I'm doing in my life right now that I thought I would never be doing just 5-6 years ago. And I think you overestimate the people that are starting companies, that are working in these fancy businesses that everyone knows about, Google, Microsoft, Spotify, or whatever, and for some reason you think you can do it, right? Not, but I guess the simple secret you said before, just recently, which is embrace change, and just embrace failing, and embrace just trying, because you realize you grow so much just by forcing yourself into a situation where you have to grow. Like, if it's starting a company and then realizing, oh, now I have a lot more responsibility, that's one way of doing it. If it's burning out completely and hitting a brick wall, well, now you're forced to handle that, right? You have to learn meditation. You have to learn to be a little bit more soft than you were before. Like, so putting yourself in, I wouldn't recommend like hitting a wall as a learning possibility, but that's nothing to try to achieve, but just forcing yourself into situations that you are uncomfortable with. Like, it's never too late to do that, whatever your age is, whatever your background is, whatever you like. Just if you fail at starting a company, what's the worst that can happen, right? So I guess I steered this conversation a little bit, but I find it interesting, like how much you can achieve with yourself just by trying to do things that are truly uncomfortable. Like, stuff happens.
And you're wearing the perfect shirt for that. Just do it.
Oh, right.
It says scratched out, just don't quit. And if you don't get a visual of this, if you're not watching this, it's a Nike shirt, and it's, they're both synonymous almost, and that is what keeps coming up in your story. And I think for me, one of the biggest takeaways is there are going to be times in your life where you don't see the light, you don't see the next moment, you don't see the next day. You are lost. You're so incredibly uncomfortable. There's no way out. And the biggest thing there is just don't quit and just do it. Just take that next step and just show up. And you will crumble, you will fall, and that's okay. And you will collapse, and you will think about, there's no more. Like, I can't go on. This is the lowest point. How will I ever get through this? What will other people think? I'm broken. I failed. But so many of us are still here today. And grace and love to all of those who are not, and all the families and all the suffering that has brought. And the biggest thing is that you always have people out there. You might not know of it, and especially if you feel alone. Even reaching out to this podcast to me, there are so many people out there who care, who are going through what you're going through, who feel what you're feeling. And that is one of the key pieces, is just having quality people around you and asking for help, being able to ask for help. And your story is beyond many stories I've heard, and the way you've turned it around and where you're at today, and how you're sharing that with this world. And when you go through pain, how you share that as now your superpower, because people feel that. People feel now how there is a depth to you. I feel it. I can greatly connect to you. I can see the deep sense of appreciation that you now have for life. And I think it's on a lighthearted note, you are showing this here on Monday. Like, where are you off to next?
Well, I'm off to Gran Canaria on Monday for 1 month, and I know it's slightly controversial since of all the with COVID-19 and everything, but I simply made a decision. Like, for once, I already had COVID, so I have some antibodies, which I hope I still have in my system. I'm gonna be careful. But it's something I felt I truly need, and me and a couple of friends are gonna try to just work from there and see how it feels to work from another country, which is, I mean, it's kind of like a childhood dream, right? Being able to work when it's cold and horrible here in Sweden, and just, get away and sit somewhere else where at least it's warm. You might still be working, you might still, might not be fully on vacation, but at least you're doing it from a warm place, right? I think you, as a Swedish person, can relate to the trying to escape the cold and trying to escape the night. And a final note, like, and I realized I just said like again, like, speaking about pushing yourself into trying to do new things. I mean, speaking in this manner, it's something like in a podcast, something I've never done before. And I'm sure I've said some words, like some nervous words too much, like, for example, I stumbled upon some wordings, didn't find the English words. I maybe had an idea that I want to talk about, and I couldn't, wrap it up in the way that I wanted, but it doesn't really matter, right? The point is, I tried, and if I do it again, I would probably be more fluent when I do it. And I think this podcast is a perfect example of trying to do what's uncomfortable for you, because this is, even though it's super comfortable to speak with you, because you're such a nice person, Sebastian, and you're truly like listening and hearing what other person is saying, it's still super fucking uncomfortable. And that's what you like, that's what you should push yourself into doing.
Beautiful, brother. I see you. I see the change you're making and how you're showing up for yourself. And thank you for showing up today. You just did it.
Thank you. Yay.
All right, everybody. Much love, and thank you, Mathias.
Thank you, Sebastian, and goodbye, everyone who might be listening, and thank you for letting me share some stuff.
I'm so grateful that Mathias opened up, was vulnerable, and shared everything and all the difficulties that he has faced. It was truly a deep bond that was formed between the two of us. And I hope this helped you, or maybe you can think of someone that this will help. Thank you, Mathias, for being a brave soul. And thank you for listening. If you want to connect with Mathias, you can find all the links in the show notes. And until we connect next time, I'm sending you so much love.